is there any link? Are you able to draw any parallel between what is happening in Orlu, or rather, what happened in Orlu, and what is happening within the Southwest, as it were? I mean, you've seen what has been happening in the Southwest in the last couple of days.
I think so. I think from a political analysis, from as a scholar, also as policy analyst, I can argue that that's why I started by saying that we are in a time of conflict. There are issues that we've not addressed, issues about the Nigerian state, the national question. Right under the military rule, when Akabashoru was president of NBA, we have talked about national conference. Today, people are talking about national conference. People are talking about referendum. People are talking about even Nigeria, the right to secession. So the country is obviously in a crisis form. That crisis is a crisis of definition. Who are we? What should we be? Now, from a democratic theory point of view, that crisis could be processed whether to a national conference, whether to a referendum, whether to a sovereign conference. The Southwest, Afenifere, Ohaneze, and Middlebelt people are talking in terms of, I've even given a deadline for the government to act by abrogating this constitution and creating a new framework for that coexistence. So that is the background in which all this happened. But the Southwest crisis has been building up. And what is it? Basically, conflict over livelihood, over ownership, over justice around farmers and headers who have become, in many cases, terrorist headers. Now, three issues. One is that the government has not been very clear and objective in trying to deal with the matter. So we've seen a tendency for the federal government to basically respond more to the defense of the headers and not in defense of farmers. Again, we saw contrast. People argue when the quit notice was issued to Igbos in the north last 2 years, 2019, the question, the government didn't take any action. There's no special statement, no directive to arrest. That was the most unconstitutional and criminal act because somebody, kind of violated the citizenship of the Nigerian people, the Igbo race as a whole. They were quit notice to leave. There was no official reprisal. There was no attempt to special statement, no prosecution. Again, we saw with the Farakuka incident. We've seen also that the president ordered the IG to go to Benue, and IG didn't go to Benue. IG said didn't go, and nothing has happened. So now the question people ask at first that the government mismanages this process that should have created trust by always acting as if it is a proxy to the Fulani headers community in this trouble. The second point arising from it is that the notion of whether we can exit people from quit notice to persons and the argument around freedom of movement. Now the question is being pursued in an odd manner because the question is not around every Nigerian can stay in Nigeria, by the way. But the question is that when people take occupation of the forest and they pose threat, do state governors have a right to properly kind of control the threat in that territory? And how can they do? Can they ask everybody to, for example, abolish night grazing? For example, ask that we identify all grazers and maintain a certain protocol process so that even if grazing is allowed in the short term because of the investment in it for ranching, there must be a defined process in which we can detoxify. It's like toxicity. We have to find a way to remove the threats in that grazing in a manner that is compatible with peaceful use of property by the owners of the land. So these are issues that we're not discussing. Now, if you look at the fact that Nigeria is not even one of the leading 10 producers of population of cows, if you look at milk production, look at beef production, cow ownership, we're not anywhere in the first 15 countries in the world. China, India, the US, South Africa, they are far, far ahead of us. Now, the question is, why is it difficult to think strategically around making this business compatible with the 21st century? When we have argued around it, some of our Fulani friends have talked about pastoralism. Now, my point has been that pastoralism is not compatible with the 21st century where land is becoming scarce and where urbanization, development has made it difficult that people have free land to roam where without encountering villagers or without competition with other means of livelihood. So why can't we, as someone has argued, that Borno alone is more than all the states in the south. The land between Borno is too much. They not have so much. So why don't we make investment to create those ranches around the northern part of Nigeria where they have too much land? With those investments, you create the ranch. Why do you have to create so ruga? Why do you have to use land that's not available, even in the southeast, the southwest, to create ruga? If we really want to help the livelihood support system of these headers, then we could have created those ruga in the north, where there's ample land, we can invest, create. So why do you create a ruga that requires expansion into the south, where there's land is not even available? So some of these contradictions, therefore, creates the impression that the government probably is not interested in solving the economic challenges of this very antiquated mode of business. Rather, there could be some people have argued that this is maybe a land grab, and the behavior of government does not discredit that proposition. Again, finally, on the Southwest issue, is that I think, without evidence, but analytically, that incident may have energized several other incidents around the country that will have to deal with more radical means of containing the headers, the Fulani herdsmen's threat. We've seen that people in the Middle Belt are fully supportive of of the action by Sunday. We see people in the Southeast supportive. So the narrative here that we must take care of on both sides is that by continuing not to deal with the threat of the Fulani herdsmen, we are endangering ourselves in the manner that there's so much profiling and maybe unnecessary attack against Fulanis as a whole. Because it's pathetic. There are many Fulanis who don't own a cow and who are not pastoralists, who are city Fulanis, who have no threat factor, so to say, against farmers. But as long as the government continues to appropriate and seem to defend these killer herdsmen, the collateral damage is that we continue to profile, maybe wrongly, and continue to create, they are mainstreaming enormous hatred and dislike and perhaps hate against the Fulanis, which may then convulse. So my fear is we are letting the national question fester so dangerously that in addition to our fragile and our failed nature, this might be the time bomb that at the end of the day, it might be a violence that the state cannot contain. And maybe those who want Nigeria to break will find it nice. But my problem is that not all breaking is nice. There could be a better way to make a sausage.
I kind of agree with you on that. Now,